Alright guys, I'm gonna keep this short and simple. This video is to help anybody who's having troubles with subnetting IPv4 IP addresses. I've struggled with this quite a bit since I've been studying for my N10 007. I use Professor Messer. This is actually his setup right here. Just scribbled. It looks like shit. So with COVID, I've been able to study a little bit more and focus and really get an understanding of what it is that he was trying to explain. I'm gonna try to break it down as best as I can, how I understand it, and hopefully it can help you guys, because this is the one section that's kept me from taking my test for so long. And now that COVID is here, I don't have an ID, I can't take my test, so I have to wait. So I just want to help anybody who really hasn't grasped the concept of subnetting. So Professor Messer has this chart. Pretty much, this is for each octet. You know, there's 8 bits in each. So he lines it up 1 to 8, 9 to 16, 17 to 24, and 25 to 32. So 8 bits in each one. That'll make sense a little later. He has something here which I really don't follow. It says network. This is the address. This is going to be one of the most important parts of subnetting. I can't explain why it's like that. I just know that I understand the way he does it. And pretty much wherever what is it called? That slash, wherever it falls on, this is the number that it's going to end up. So if it's a /17, you get an address of 128, and you'll see what I mean by that later. Now these numbers are pretty much how you're going to find the broadcast address, the network ID, the first and the last available IP addresses. And that's where this number comes in most. This is the address column, and I'll show you exactly how I'm doing it. So I could try to find the app to show on my tablet, just to make it a little bigger, but I had to write it down. So they gave me 192.168.9.219 with a CIDR 30. So I think the most important part is understanding which class these fall into, so that you know where to start with your subnet, or to find just the subnet itself. So since I know this is a 192, this is a class C, and it's a CIDR 30. So I'm gonna go to 30, find where that's at. It falls under the 4th octet. So I'm not gonna do anything else to these 3, because I know this right here is a class C. So class C stays as is. Subnet mask 255, 255, 255, and that's where this number comes in. Whoa, not yet, sorry. That's not where that number comes in. That's where this comes in. So the CIDR 30 decides on what's the value of the last octet. So 30, come over here, 252. So now I know for sure my subnet mask is 255.255.255.252, right? So now I have to find the network address. And this is where it gets tricky, and you're trying to catch up to figure out what the hell this guy is talking about. So he mentioned something about if it's 255, you bring it down. If it's a 0, you do that, right? Fine. So since I know that my focus isn't these 3 octets, I'm just gonna bring the number down. I'm gonna bring down the 192.168.9, right? But I have to figure out, where does my network begin? And that's where this number comes in handy. So since that 30 cider landed under 252. My magic number, which you're gonna hear a lot, which is weird. I just figured that out the other day. I just thought it was the number that I followed. So you have to find out where 219 falls under this 4 address, I guess you could say, right? And I don't even think I went that high because I didn't think I was gonna get that high. Awesome. So let's just catch this up really fast. 219. So pretty much you're breaking the network up into how many times these numbers can go into 255. So everything always starts at 0. Always. Where the hell is that? That's the part of 18. 0. Then you just work your way. So you know any mass, the beginning is gonna start 0. The last available is 3. I mean, your broadcast is 3. Your last available is 2. It's a small subnet. So multiply all of this. 184, 188, 192, 196, 200, 204. Jesus, I didn't think this number was gonna jump that high. 208, 212, 216, and then you have 220. Right? So now you have to find exactly where 219 falls under that grouping. And if I look, it falls in between 216 and 220. So meaning 216 has to be my first available network address, and that's going to be your network ID. So we came out to 216. Bang. That's it. You have your subnet, you have your network ID. There you go. Sorry. All right. So now we have to find your first available. So you're pretty much just gonna add 1 to the 216. So your first available is 192.168.9.217. And I actually forgot to put an extra thing, so we're gonna have to just wing it on this one. So now your broadcast address has to be the last address possible. Now this is where I was getting confused watching the videos. So just because 220 is next doesn't mean you use that number. You use any number that falls from where you started to the number right before you get to the next address. So say we were using 80. My last subnet mask would be, my last usable IP address would be 95 here. So here is going to be 219. 219 is the broadcast address. I'm sorry, that's the last one. Here we go, fucking up already. 192.168.9.219, meaning the last available would be this same number with 218. And now you have your network ID, the first available, the last available, and the broadcast address. So this is my first video, man. I've never made a video before. I just wanted to try to simplify this, because this is the one scary thing that kept me from taking my test. And now that I'm ready, I can't because of COVID. So I'm gonna go over a couple. You guys can tell me to eat shit and not look at the rest of this, but I'm gonna run through the rest of these. And I'm gonna try to break it down the same exact way, as simply as I can, because it isn't that hard, man. It's just about, I feel like the people teaching me the videos that I was following were moving too fast. They weren't breaking it down. I was just seeing a bunch of numbers and not really getting what they were going through, or what they were trying to get to a point. across to me. Jesus. All right, let me stop talking and just fucking make this video. So now we have another one. 192. So I already know right off jump, before I even see this number, that I'm dealing with a Class C IP address. Class C address. So I go find where this 28 lies. So I know that 28 is gonna fall under the 4th octet. So same shit. I'm not gonna mess with these. I'm gonna leave it just the way it is. Sorry. 255.255.255/28 falls under 240. So now I know for sure my subnet mask is 255.255.255.240, right? And this is where you find the magic number again. So remember, you have to find exactly 28. 16 is your magic number. So this is the grouping you're gonna go with. Right here, this is gonna show you where to begin your network address, and it shows you how to find everything else. So if the number here is 28, so I start in the 16s. So I'm gonna be looking here to find where, and I know this is everywhere, guys, I'm sorry. I gotta find where 24 goes into the 16 group for the first time. So already I could tell it falls in between the 16 and the 32. So my network address is gonna start with 16. So since it's 255, you just bring everything down. There's something that he says about the 0, and if it's 255, pretty much, if you're not messing with these, and you know your focus is that last octet, just bring all these numbers down. It gets a little tricky when there's zeros. I think I have one up there later that we're gonna do. So you bring the 192, 168, 137, and I already found the magic number, which falls between 16 and 32. That's where 24 lies, right? So my network address, 192.168.37.16. Right now, first available is obviously going to be 192.168, and like a jackass, I really missed the extra spot, so I'm gonna have to do that again. This paper looks crazy. 37, first available 17. Now 192.168.37. Let's find the last available. So remember, just because it falls in between 16 and 32, that number cannot be touched. That's the start of the next subnet. So the number right before 32 is 31. So now I know my broadcast address, the last address where I can do anything, is 31. And you minus 1 from that to get the last available host. Now, if you wanted to get real deep into that, this is just, I'm going to throw this out there because this is how I figured this part out after all of this. If you want to find out how many, fuck this, we're not going to do that part. You're going to figure that part out, and I'll make another video a little better than this one. All right, let's cover this up so I'm not confusing anybody with all the bullshit. So this one I found interesting. They gave me a few of these. So it didn't give me a cider block. And I thought this was good practice for anybody who hasn't gotten a hang of it already. So it gives me the IP address and it gives me the subnet mask already. So taking a look at it, I already know, even before this, I know that this is a Class C because it starts with 192. So it already did, a quarter of the job for me. So now I got to figure out what cider is it on. What cider notation is it on? So I know that it's under 128. Come over here and I find 128. So that makes it, well, I don't even, this part doesn't even matter, but it is a cider 25. Right? slash 25, whatever the hell. I'm probably saying that wrong. I don't give a shit, right? So now I need to find, remember, your magic number falls under 128 group. If it's under, if the side is 1, 9, 17, 25, you're gonna go with what's on that row. Same thing for the second row and the third. This is the number that's gonna help you find your first, last broadcast and network ID. This number. I don't remember what the hell he puts here, why he puts it there, whatever. That's up to you to figure out. I don't need it, I don't use it. I've been doing this perfectly fine since I figured it out, right? So 128. 120 is the number I need to go with. I gotta find where this falls into. So it's not gonna fall under double zero because that number ends at 127. So from 128 on, which every number can never pass 155 is. So that's why there's no number after 128, because the next number plus 128, it's 156. And 60 floor plus 192 is 166, 266. So you just don't even put a last number there. You should already know that, right? So the 128 is gonna, it falls into there. The 163 is the only, this is the one that it falls into. So I know that my network ID is 192.168.46. That, really? Is that simple? Shit, yeah. 128 pretty much did it for you. It's crazy. After that, you find the first, which would be this same address. First usable, add 1 to the network ID. That would be 127. You know that the final is the broadcast. And where does every IP address end? Well, not every, I lied, sorry. This one, since it is on the 128, it's gonna land on 255. So the broadcast address is 192.168.46.255. You take one away to find the last IP address available, and then you get 254. So your last available is 192.168.46.254. This is another one where they gave me shit. What's this one? 730. This is tricky, but it's easy. I'm not gonna go over this one. Once you get the hang, you understand that that was just literally 172.23. 245 0 network. 1 first host, 255 last, 254. Well, broadcast last. That's it. That was the easiest one. Let's move on to this one. Here we go. So the IP address is 10.5.73.89. So it's about time we seen a class. Well, that was a class B, but we're gonna see that. So this is a class A. So again, you know your main focus is that. Right? You already started with a class A. So you know that we already have a cider because we shouldn't have passed that line with anything under the Subnet mask. Remember, that's all they gave us. So we're gonna come 252, and I'm sorry guys, I know I'm not making this sound educated. I'm just trying to break it down so that you guys can understand this better, man, because if this is one of the reasons why you're not taking your tests, it's bullshit. This is super easy, man. Alright, so leave that at that. Find a 252. So I know that my cider, since it landed under that one, remember, this is where that, they already give you something to mess. So you know which octets are being borrowed from, pretty much. So 252 going to 14. So your magic number would be, sorry, I lost myself, 4. Now, you have to find where does that 5 fall into the 4 column. And that's the quickest one. It's going to fall under between 4 and 8. Now, since this is going to be a little longer, it might be a little more difficult to understand this part. So, you're going to bring the 10 down. Since you know the first address is right here, it's going to start in this grouping. Your first address is going to be 10.4.0.0. Your first available is going to be 10.4.0.1. Now here's my favorite part. These numbers can get tricky right here when there's a gap, when you've only been focused on the full address. So pretty much you have all of this as a host, and that's a lot of fucking host. So pretty much how it goes is 10. This is gonna be for the last and the broadcast. Let's do the last first. So the last is gonna be the last subnet available on this one, which would be 7. So it's going to be 10.7.255.254. That's going to be the last available host. Now to do the subnet, you just add 1 to the last host. And you get 10.7.255.255. Alright, let me go to a nicer page. Where's that first page at? Did I do it already? Let's break these last 4 down. This is already a fucking 20-minute video, which I did not want to do. So we have an address of 172.17.204.35. You already know the CIDR block is 27. So this right here is a class B. So I know that I don't want to fuck with that or that. I shouldn't. It's not always that way. But let's find this side of 27, and my phone is dying, so hold on. This not gonna work. 2 seconds, guys. Sorry. Clearly, get the fuck. Okay. Little bit of Clorox, no tissue, no more tissue, guys. Right? Now, back to it. So we know this is class B. So these 2 I really don't want to mess with unless I have to. But I already know they gave me my CIDR block. So I'm going to go to 27. Where's the 27? It's actually going to fall under the final octet. So the subnet mask is going to be 255.255.254. And I know that because this CIDR block, or whatever the hell it's called, CIDR notation, it's making me borrow bits for the subnet mask, right? So we're no longer focused on the third one. The third one is just going to be part of the, I think they call it a network ID, something like that, right? So we're going to bring everything down, 172.17.204. Now I have to figure out where does this what's the beginning of this IP address? So 35, I have to figure, oh, sorry. So 32 is the magic number. I have to find the group of 32, find that group of 32 and figure out where the hell 35 falls on there. And the first address that it can fall into is 32. So I know that my first available address is 172, 117, 204, 32. Last available is gonna be 63, because we don't touch that number. 63. That's the broadcast, I'm sorry. Last available is minus that, so it'll be 62. And first available would be 33. So you got your network ID, you broadcast, your last available, and your first available. Right? Yeah, it did. We good. Bullshit. This is a fun one. And this is another one that I want to go over. I like these 10 ones. So your best case, I think that you can do too, is even if you don't follow my videos, because this video is shit and it looks like shit, go to Professor Messer. Look up his 7-second subnetting and just do the problem over. I guarantee you, even if you didn't understand the first 3 times, the question will look brand new to you as you do it along with him, because it's that confusing if you don't understand it. And that's how it was for months. Now I got it. I do it along with him, or I have applications that you can download and you can practice that. All right. So right off the jump, this is what I like to do. I know that it's a class A, so I'm not fucking with this octet 255, right? But it's a CIDR 9, so I have to find out which octet does this 9 make me go to. The CIDR 9 falls on the second octet, and it's a 128 address. So my subnet mask is 255.128.0.0, right? Now I have to figure out. Remember, I love these 2 numbers. This would really make you understand this, I believe. My magic number is 128. So, simple enough. I have to find out where the hell 209 falls under that 128 address. And it doesn't fit between 0 and 127, so I know that my starting address is 128. So my network ID, sorry, it's gonna be 10.209. And this is why I should be paying attention and not looking at the camera. It's gonna be 10.128.0.0. These numbers are all network addresses, but we're not actually, these are all different host addresses. We're not gonna use these. We just need to find where does this network address begin. And it starts at 10.128.0.0. That's it. That's the beginning of this address. Now your first possible available, just add 1. Right here. Just add 1. That's it. Your last available, this is where you can't forget this, right? Right? First available, last available is 10. And remember, it fell under this 128. So you could only go to where? 255. Last available is 10.255. See, I still get confused a little bit. 255.255. And that's your broadcast. You want to get the final host? You go down 1, 254. Guys, I'm sorry about how messy this shit looks. I just try to explain it and not make a 30-minute video, which I ended up doing. Hopefully I got something from this. If not, tell me no and I'll take this video down. Good luck, guys.